Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. You are always most welcome. Well, today an interesting one, a bit of a serious one in a way, isn't it? Because we have here for review and your interest the Das Werk medium tank T-72M. And probably needs very little introduction from me. This was a Soviet era tank which was first sort of released in 1972, hence the name. It's their main sort of medium battle tank, powered by a 780 horsepower supercharged diesel engine, and intended to be used by the Soviet and now of course Russian army and sold all around the world. And it was also made in other locations. I think it was made in four or six other countries, including the Czech Republic, Poland, one or two other places, Hungary as well I think. Now of course I say it's a serious one because obviously we have the war in Ukraine, and yeah, it's not an area I wanted to stray into really. I think that a lot of us are dispirited by what we've seen. There's certainly nothing to be, I don't want to glorify it in any way, but it's interesting from a modelling point of view. It's interesting from a technical point of view in that I think everyone who's seen this war, this unnecessary war, I think probably most of us would agree, which has got horrible violence that's been brought on civilian populations, which is just unwarranted in my view. I'm not going to go on about that, but yeah, it's very unsettling for everybody to see. One of the shocking things about it, apart from the level of barbarity that we've seen brought upon the Ukrainians, but from a technical perspective, the surprising thing has been these T-72s and the T-90s, that they just well, obviously they're not being necessarily strategically well used on the Russian side. You've got to remember that these are used by both sides. Now, not this particular M version, but I'll come to that in a second. But I can tell you, for example, that this is pertinent. You might say, well, you put Ukraine in the title. 200 of these have just been sent by Poland, I think, to support Ukraine. So this model will be in the theatre of operations anyway. I think it's probably already there now. So it is relevant. But the shocking thing, as I'm sure a lot of you will agree, is the fact that these tanks, which were, they were designed really to potentially combat NATO, Soviet versus NATO conflict, and the NATO analysts were probably very worried that they would storm across the Fulda Gap in the West Plains of Germany, and there'd be a big tank battle. And that's kind of what it was designed for. What it clearly wasn't designed for, and is not being successful at, whoever's using it, is the fact that it seems to be a bit obsolete in terms of the intended protection levels that it has. And I'm talking about the armour, I'm talking about this particular kit doesn't have it, but the explosive reactive armour, the ERA. Now the ERA, these little square boxes, oblong boxes you see festooned all along these tanks that you're seeing in Ukraine in the conflict at the moment. And the idea is that it's to prevent especially rocket propelled grenades, which have a shaped charge which will penetrate straight through the armour with like a plasma jet of energy, and very nasty. I mean, you don't want to be in a tank when this hits you. And the idea is that this explosive reactive armour detonates and stops the jet of energy, liquid molten metal penetrating through the armour. And it doesn't seem to be working, does it? That's the point I'm getting to. It's just not working. You're seeing tank after tank, especially when they're hit with these man-pad type portable missiles, where one man, I mentioned it before, I was talking about the Leopard a few weeks ago, one man seems to become the king of the battlefield, not the big tanks. It's amazing. You have a tank here with, I think, crew of 3, this one, which is quite a small crew, and one man can, as you are seeing, knock that out with relative ease, with a shoulder-launched missile. So what, of course, has been developed is that they've also added, especially on the Russian side, they've added a lot of these, as well as the ERA, they've added like canopies on the top, which in theory is supposed to stop these missiles like the NLAW or the Maverick from penetrating the armour above, which is where it's thinnest. And it just looks, I don't know what the actual statistical analysis is exactly, but it looks to me totally ineffective. And you see a lot of these with this canopy mesh above it, like framework, you know, of like a cage, and it's just blown to bits. And in many cases you also see that the turrets have popped off. First sign of a hit, you see a hit go in from one of these missiles, and then within, I'd say from what I've seen on videos, 2 to 5 seconds, if you don't get out in 2 to 5 seconds, it's over. Because what happens is, and I can't show this in the kit because unfortunately this particular one doesn't have an interior, but this is a kit actually developed from the Amusing Hobby kit, which has been taken by Das Werk. By the way, I'm digressing slightly, but Das Werk are Modelbau Königs, Koenig I should say, in Germany. It's their sort of brand name, and what they do is they do deals with different manufacturers, and in this case they've taken out the original kit from Amusing Hobby, had an interior, and they've taken the interior out, but they've given you other variant sprues instead. So, but I mention it because one of the key problems with this tank, not the kit but the tank itself, it has this carousel magazine under the turret, and in it you have 2 levels. It's like a 2-tier system, and it rotates around the gunner and the commander, and it has an auto loading system, and the top tier is the actual round, the shell, and the bottom tier is the casing with the explosive charge in it. And what seems to be happening in Ukraine, as I'm sure many of you have seen, I'm teaching granny to suck eggs, you've probably all seen it. When they take a hit from one of these end-laws, because it has one of these penetrating charges, and sometimes it has a double explosion to make sure that any ERA is overcome, which is very scary stuff, and it penetrates through the turret, and it penetrates straight into the ammunition, and when it does that, it seems to literally, as I say, within 2 to 5 seconds-ish, it seems to just detonate the entire magazine of ammunition. And we've seen it, haven't we, many videos that are quite distressing to watch, where the turret with its gun is just blown off, and people are slightly, you know, as a joke almost, which it isn't, but calling it the Jack in the Box or popcorn tanks and all these nicknames they're giving to them. But anyway, I thought we'd cover that because it's important to explain to people what is going on. It's a strange choice of design, I think, where you have surrounded your crew, your key crew, the commander and the gunner, and you've surrounded them right in the centre of the tank with all the ammunition right next to them, and without having the appropriate armour protection. Even on the later versions, which has got more advanced armour and it's got carbon composite armour and all this, doesn't seem to be working. You know, you've seen yourselves, I'm sure, many people watching this, so many images coming out of Ukraine literally every day where these tanks are just literally scrap, and the turret's missing, or the turret is 100 yards away, and the force it must take to blow off that turret, you know. And the turret itself with the gun must weigh, and the tank is 41 tons, but it must weigh about 10 or 12 tons, I would think. Well, certainly 10 tons getting on that way. A lot of weight in that turret. It's astonishing. But anyway, we won't go on the war in Ukraine, but you'll understand why it's of interest, because we're seeing a lot of these on the battlefield. As I say, Ukraine has them in different variants. Now they're actually getting this variant from the Poles who are selling them to them. So let's talk about this kit from Das Werk, or Amusing Hobby as it was originally. Now this is not mine, this has been loaned to me by a relative of mine, but he insists that I must open the bag, so that is great, because it's great to have a look at this close up. I've never reviewed a Das Werk kit before, so it's yeah, it's quite nice. On the side, I'm going to zoom you in there. So on the side we've got a, is that Iranian? I think it's Iran, isn't it? It's not Iraq, is it? I always get them mixed up, their flags. I think it's Iran. Iranian, they actually made them in Iran as well. We've got an Iranian one, we've got, I think it's a North African one, a Czech one, I think a German, East German one. And yeah, they were made for the East German market originally, and the North Vietnamese army had these as well. So they're an export model, the Ed version. And of course, as I say, the main difference between this and these very heavily dressed ones that have got all the ERA, this hasn't got all that clutter on it, so it's more pure looking in its original form. It's got the famous, the V here is actually a like a splitter to, when it goes through water, to split a bow wave either side so it doesn't go in the driver when he's sitting as he is there with his head popped out. So that's the idea. On the other side, you've got these different versions I mentioned, with slightly modified changes in terms of just different alternatives. And it says here they are, okay, I was right the first time, it was Iraq. I thought it was Iraqi flag. I need to practice and swat up on my flags. So it was the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, the Czech, Hungarian and Iraqis. So which is the NVA then? NVA, that's the German there, isn't it? I think I'm getting confused, and I'm pretty sure that's the NVA, so that's the East Germans. It says here that it's got 3 versions, T-72M, UV1 or UV2, buildable with or without smoke discharge at the turret, workable single tracks, no interior for ease of construction, which obviously makes it a lot quicker, and then the 4 different markings. Correct shape new turret for the T-72M and variants. It's a cooperation between Werk Germany and Amusing Hobby in China. So there we go. Now this is a very, very new, not brand new, but bang up to date kit. So this actually came out by Amusing Hobby in, I think it was late 2020. So we're within 18 months, 2 years of it being brand new. So we should see decent quality, hopefully. Let's have a look. What do we have got? Now then, so we get that stand up. We've got nice, glossy. I was going to say, by the way, some of the quality on the way that they've done the box is nice. They've got this matte finish, but they've got spot UV varnish, glossy lettering, and yeah, it's quite a nice presentation of the box. Actually, I like it. So we've got lots of sprues. We'll take it out. Oh, we've got a bathtub style hull. Quite a few screws. Oh, and we've got tracks. Many tracks. And links. There's a track and link system. Will be fun. Yeah, the NVA, it's the East German Army, isn't it? I thought it was North Vietnamese Army because they obviously bought T-64s, didn't they? I think, the Russians. Right, okay. Let's start with the instructions. Why not? What have we got here? DDR, yes. Of course, the National Volks Army. National Volks Army, NVA. Not North Vietnamese Army. It's easy to mix them up though, because it's both NVA, aren't they? But anyway, I'm getting into an apocalypse now mode of thinking, obviously. Let's just move on. Right, so nice glossy sort of presentation, beautiful colour printing, very nice. It doesn't have any history, does it? No history. No, it doesn't tell us anything. So that's a bit of a shame. I thought they were going to present us with some background, which they don't seem to do. And then, and now I know I complain, people say, oh, you're always moaning about instructions. Well, that's because instructions are the weakest point in most kits, I'm afraid, today. Not in all of them, obviously. Wings was brilliant, and Tamiya are good. Now, my complaint on this straight away is just 2 things. Obviously, it's lack of history. But you're going to see when I zoom you in, they've got very fine, a bit like TACOMs, very fine graphics, the actual sort of diagrams. But they've put it on this coloured paper, which is like parchment, deliberately, like a battle map sort of colour. But they don't mix well. I'll zoom you in and you can see what you think. This is going to test my eyes. You've probably got more chance of seeing what's going on than I have. Because I can tell you that up at close range, it's not great. So basically you've got your bathtub style hull. It really is quite hard to see against this background. They should have either gone for a white background or made this bolder. It's too fine. It's too fine. It's quite hard to follow actually. You've got these like parchment pigmentations in the paper, which is really interfering with the clarity of the image. Anyway, don't bang around about instructions. I get told off when I do that. Anyway, you've got your drive system, and you've got all your the exits here for the torsion bars coming out. You got the escape hatch, which I'm told is very hard to get out of. I don't think we've seen many people escaping out the bottom of these. They don't have time for starters, do they? I mean, when these things go up, they just go stratospheric, don't they? I mean, I saw one video with one popping its turret off. I wonder if others, I bet you've seen this. This is about 3 or 4 weeks ago, about the start of April. And one turret blew off, and it must have blown it about 150 feet into the air. And then what did I say? It was about, 5 to 10 tons that turret would have gone. Some force is needed to do that, and you're not going to survive if you're in that tank. When that goes off, the arsenal of the magazine goes off. That's it. Nobody's going to survive that blast. No chance at all. Anyway, back to the kit. So, as I say, I don't think they've been sensible in the way they've chosen this colour. It's challenging to see. It's quite challenging. It would be quite challenging even on white paper, this. But on this glossy, sort of creamy brown, parchmenty style paper, it's quite a challenge. Anyway, you put in your drive system. You've got your drive sprocket here, and you've got some sort of like a polycap type system, I think, going in there. And then you're doing basically what you've done on one side. You repeat it down the other side here. And you've got your armour plating going in. It's telling you to. I think you just have to bend that. Is that a piece of photo etch? I think it might be. Yeah, I think it is. Some photo etch included. And then you've got this sort of you have sump armour to prevent it from grinding out and ripping through the lower armour. You have a bit of extra armour, a bit like we did on that Leopard. And then you've got your, as I say, the drive sprockets on the opposite side. So we've done both sides of it. Then you're building up your what's going to be the back of the tank here, complete with, it's got some sort of braces there for the exhaust, I think it is. Yeah, for the exhaust system, I think. And you've got hooks, and again, it's not easy to see the detail. Actually, the clarity. It's almost like I'm looking through a bit of a hazy, like my glasses are dirty. It's not that. It's just that the background is so interfering with the actual image, which is very finely printed. Makes it quite hard to pick out the details. I'm not sure why they did that. Anyway, you're building up the back of the tank here. Then you've got your idler sprockets, and you've got. It's not. What did I say? Is the exhaust? No, it's not. Not brackets for the exhaust. It's brackets for fuel drums on the back. So it's a curved bracket to hold fuel drums, additional capacity of fuel. Then you've got your torsion bars coming in here, all down the side, actually on both sides. Starting to build up, and then of course you've got the joy of building up many tracks. So it's a bit like the Ryefield model system where you've got link and pin, and it goes into, I think there's like a little, I'm sure, yeah, we'll come to it in a minute, but there's like a little jig you put them in to position it correctly. Although it doesn't make that awfully clear there, I've got to say. 95 track pads for each side. Oh joy, that's going to be fun, isn't it? Anyway, as I mentioned, you can see here, this is the fuel drums going on the back. And then we get into the front, the sort of glacis front armour section of the tank, and you're putting in your tow cables, and you've got, as I mentioned, there's this V shape here, which is the sort of splitter to stop water from ingressing into the driver's open hatch. Then you've got your lights coming in here. I'm not sure on the video whether this is coming out the same as I'm seeing it, because it doesn't look very clear and distinct, does it, this instruction? And it's the finest of the print. They should have made it bolder. Either bolden the print and or have white background, but there you go. So you're putting all these lights together, and obviously the light protection, the anti-knock protection guards around the lights, and then you've got all sorts of little hooks going in there, one or two small lamps as well. Then we've got our mud guards, and you've got to put in your tow cables as well, which looks quite good. And and then it looks like a toolbox. Is that? It's going to go on the side. You're building up the top of the mudguards here, where you can have these little supports where you could you have some little stowage boxes that go alongside the top. It doesn't have the more extensive side armour that some of the other models of this tank do, but it does have some side skirts. You can see here, this is these sections of like toolboxes and access hatches that go along the top of the mudguard. Putting them in, and then you've got the little support stays that go along the top as well, which help to fix it on. And then you've got your mudguard supports at the back. Is that the back? Yeah, the back here. And then we're getting up to the driver's hatch here. So we've got the driver's hatch. Again, I'm not going to relay all the videos I've seen, but I did see I did see one video where the driver was the one person who survived from the tank, and he was being hit by a drone, I think. And the driver climbed out and then tumbled onto the floor. Obviously he was injured. And the commander got out of his hatch, and he didn't get further than just standing up, and then there was another explosion and he was gone. So yeah, I mean, this guy that got out of the driver's hatch, he was really quick, and whether he survived or not we don't know, but anyway, we won't get into that. All I'm saying is, if you're going to get out of this hatch, you better make it quick, especially if it's been hit by one of these Maverick or N-Law missiles, because they seem to cook off the ammo so fast, you know. So we've got here, there's a hatch and there's like a secondary periscope on the T-72. You have a main periscope in front, and then you have like these secondary little periscopes that just give a little bit of lateral vision. And then of course you come into the back then, and the engine deck at the rear, and you've got your there's some photo etch here to go on. There's some grills, very nice. We'll come to that in a second. You've got to build up that deck, and you've got to bring in all the covers, put the grill mesh in the middle, and then you finally you mount it all. Whoops! You mount it all on the rear. Thus, and then it shows you tow cable, how long it should be, and how it should look when it's fitted. I think we may have some cable for that. Yeah, we've got some nice materials for that. Some wires as well have to go on the back, which is basically interestingly between these auxiliary fuel tanks. They actually have a pipe between them, so obviously they are looks like they're live refueling on the move to be able to. They must have a pump, and they must pump it using that system with the piping straight into the tank, and it shows it there. There it is. Look, you can make that out. So that's quite interesting. Then we have got the side skirts are going on here. Protective armour side skirts for the top of the tracks. And then we're building up our turret. We've got two options, it says. Now, it shows the two different options of how they look. So one's very clean looking, this one. This one is the one that's got all the smoke discharges, etc. on it. So it's much more cluttered and much busier. But it does look good, got to say. It looks pretty nice. I think it's telling you that up front before you actually build it. So it says this is what it will look like, which one do you want? So that's the option. It's a bit strange the way they presented it, I've got to say, but anyway, it's a bit back to front, but not to worry. I've seen worse, much worse. Anyway, then you're building up your side stowage box here. I don't know if you can actually see this, it's not very clear, is it? Side stowage box, which is going to go for things like armour and tools on the side, and then you've got another little stowage box on the other side, various hooks and fittings for the side parts to enable you to mount those boxes. Then we're getting onto the front of the mantlet in effect here. You've got to drill a couple of holes there, get your mantlet in, put your searchlight on the top, and then we have got these stowage boxes again, but on the opposite side. And then you've got the option of these, depending on which version, the option of these smoke discharges or grenade discharges. and then you're building up your outer mantlet and your sort of cannon outer ring, mounting ring. You've got your hatches with the handles and the pivots on it. There's also a little hatch on this tank. It has a little hatch for dispensing of the used shell. Because of this auto loader system, it also automatically, it loads a shell, by the way, it flicks out the old shell through this little hatch out the back, so you don't have to stand behind one, because it comes out, it's red hot, and it comes out at about 60 miles an hour. And they reload the whole process in 8 seconds apparently, so it's very fast. But if you watch it, you can see I might put a link in the description. I'll put a link into one of the videos on YouTube where you can see this auto loader carousel system, and you can have a look for yourselves. It looks a bit crude to me, I've got to be honest, and when you see all this ammo around them, I mean, you know, you don't need to take my word for it, we've all seen the results, haven't you? Anyway, let's get back to the hatch. So I say there's this hatch which flicks out from the auto loader, which I think is it that one, or I'm trying to figure out which of these it is. I think it might be this one here, and this flicks open when they fire the gun, and it dispenses the empty shell out the back. Now we're on to the commander's hatch, which has got, obviously it's got all the mirrors and the visors on it and the periscopes and things. It's also got his gun sight here, rangefinder gun sight. We've got a big, huge, great it's target. Is that a targeting system, or is that the actual searchlight? Actually, quite hard to tell. I think that's the targeting system for the main gun. And then you actually are going to build up your machine gun, which goes on the top here. Quite a big thing, isn't it? Huge. And the mounting for that, complete with it's got actually some protective armour here as well. A little bit of a shield with a visor in it for the commander to use. Well, is it the commander or is it the gunner? I think it's the gunner, isn't it? Yeah, it's on the gunner's side, of course. And then last but not least, you are building up your 125mm cannon, and it's quite an impressive gun on this. It's a smoothbore gun, but it's as an actual gun, it is good. The issues that this had and continues to have is because it's an earlier, variant of Soviet tank. Can't really shoot on the move. I think I was reading something that said that if it goes above about 10-12 miles an hour, it can't shoot accurately. It can't. In theory it can, but it's just not accurate. So it's not like a Challenger or an Abrams. It can't do what they can do. Nothing like it, And it doesn't have the level of protection. They're not that big a tank either, the T-72. If you look at it, I saw a photo next to an Abrams. Abrams is about 50% bigger. It's a much bigger tank. And whilst this is perhaps a better looking tank, you can argue, that's not going to help you when you're in it. I know which one I'd rather be in, whether an Abrams or a Challenger 2 or Challenger 3 even. It wouldn't be one of these. I think we've all seen what happens. So I hope that our friends in Ukraine are going to be careful when they get them, because they are, and this is the exact model they're going to get. I mean, they have them already, of course, but they're getting another 200, as I mentioned. Anyway, you then get the NVA, the National Volksarmy, the Eastern Germans army, not North Korea, North Vietnam, as I said earlier. Quite a nice colour call out, though, I've got to say. Gives you a nice, let's just zoom you in. It gives you a nice impression of what the colourings should be and the markings, etc. Quotes ammo colours, which isn't very helpful, but anyway, don't know why they do that. That's another Chinese oddity. And then here we've got the Hungarian army in the 1990s, which looks quite cool. Alternatively, Czechoslovakia, as it was before they became Slovakia and the Czech Republic. 1980s this time, obviously before the fall of the Soviet Union, and then long after that we've got the Iraqi army in 2006. From Hungarian stocks, it says, so there you go. It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? 2006. New Iraqi army, so this is obviously post Saddam Hussein. long after the deposing of Saddam 2003. Anyway, I have to say on the instructions I don't like the way they presented them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the information, but if you're hard of your eyesight, you better be warned that this is it's not a very helpful way to present it. Putting it on this particular colour of paper with such fine graphics is not good, actually. I mean, I wear glasses now, but I don't think even if you don't wear glasses you're going to find it too easy on the eye. So it might get half a point knocked off of that, but we shall see. Let's now have a proper look at the kit. Where to begin? I think we're going to start now. I say it's a relative of mine that owns this, and he was very clear he wants me to open it, which probably means he's going to build it, and he's built some very nice tanks. I've got to say, he's done a beautiful Challenger 2, a couple of Leopards, one of the Leopard variants that's got the huge self-propelled, I forgot what it's called, the big self-propelled gun. That was amazing, really beautiful, nice weathering on it, superb. Anyway, let's be careful. I think he's going to build it. That's the takeaway I'm getting from this. Let's have a look at this photo etch, which looks very nice. This looks very, very fine, doesn't it? Wow, that is good. And it's thin. It's nice and thin. It's not like your Tamiya photo etch, which is like thick sliced bread. Slight exaggeration, but you know what I mean. This is really thin. You see that? It's gossamer thin. Careful how we handle this. It's Amusing Hobby 2021, so it's even newer than I was suggesting by about 6 months, I think. So this is bang up to date, you know, in the last 12 months then. Nice kit. Certainly judging by the detail here, some very fine sort of detail engraved into the photo etch. Look at it here and here. It's really nice, isn't it? It's got all your grates and grills. Then we've also got our decals, and not many obviously, it's really just a country marking and that's it, a number really, not much else to go by, not even any number plates on these, interestingly. I have to say I'm pleased it isn't a Russian version, because it's the export one that's probably in better taste at the moment, I think. I'm sure many of you will agree. Now then, we've got some clear parts, which are not significant in the tank, so I'm not going to take these out of the bag. I think that'll be a bit unnecessary really, but it's this rangefinder, you've got your searchlight and your headlights. It all looks very nice. Yeah. I've never seen an Amusing Hobby kit before either, so this is a new thing for me. Can't see anything wrong with that, that's very good. Then we have, and again I'm not going to take this out, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. We have got our cable, and we've got some basically what looks like tow cable, and some of it is also wire, and the tow cable does look quite realistic. Sometimes, you know, you get like thread, don't you, which is not really the thing. They've got thread in here for rope, to represent rope, which is fine, but you don't want that for the tow cables, and they've gone for something a bit more substantial, which looks really good. Quite like that. Nice. Looking good so far. Then, here we go. Well, we've got a big bag here. What I'm going to do is just going to slit it open a little bit, just take one out, because there's obviously a whole load of multiples. We don't need to get them all out. It says, slit it really well. What have we got here? I need to move the box because I think it's causing the focus problem. It's going to. It's sure to do that in the moment. That box. So this is the pin and the jig arrangement for your tracks. So quite a bit of sprue hair, so to speak. There we go. Now it looks very nicely moulded. Very, very accurately moulded. Very sharp looking. And then we've actually got the tracks themselves. So again, I'll just make a little slit and pull one out. Enable us to see what we're up against. because this is going to be fun, isn't it? What is it, 95 per side? Ooh, dear. This is why people sometimes say they like the Tamiya armour, which I do, because you don't have this problem. So yes, you can clearly see there if you look carefully where the pin goes at the end. So you put them together, you interlace them using that jig and pop them in there, and then obviously the pin goes at the end. Pins go in either side. Job done. Very nicely moulded though, markedly better than when I got the Scorpion tank from AFV Club, which came with optional extras I bought, being the workable track links, and they were just awful, to be honest. So badly moulded, just not accurately, they weren't clean, they didn't fit well, the tolerance was all wrong, and I abandoned them in the end and went for the rubber bands, which is a bit disappointing. You spent, I don't know, £20 on some extra tracks, so I can't recommend those, but these look absolutely brilliant, to be honest. The only problem I've got is I can't remember where I made the slit and I can't get them back in. Bring you out so you can see me struggle with this. Got a bit of a fix here. I can't remember where the hole is. There we go. Talk amongst yourselves, it's fine. There we go, there we go. So, many tracks then. There's about 190 tracks I think we've got to build there. That's going to be great fun. But it does look nicely done. It doesn't look like we're going to have any clean up to do at all there. It's spot on, very clean moulding indeed. Now then, let us get into, let's start with the bathtub. Now then, I've got to say, this looks absolutely terrific. Look at the way this has been moulded. A lot of great detail underneath it, look at that. Wow. Now that's, looks like it's been slide moulded to me, the way they've done it, because they've got these lots of detail. Don't forget this is from a variant of the kit originally. You would have had an interior, and that's the reason you've got this like interior floor. It's all very true to life shaping, but beyond that there is no further interior in this tank model, so that's about as far as it goes, I think. But it's beautifully moulded, isn't it? Very nice, sharp, clean moulding, crisp. Yeah, that's a very nice hull indeed. Superb. Now then, let's get into the old meat potatoes. There we go. Bring it out a bit, see what's going on. So here we've got all the mud guards, rather the mud guard, not the mud guard itself, but the top of the track mud guard area. So we've got these stowage areas I spoke of here. Can we see them? There we go. And you can see how it's shaped for the turret. So that's quite interesting the way they've had to shape it. It's almost like somebody didn't get the memo that there was going to be some stowage boxes and they've had to make a change in the design perhaps. On the other side it's a bit shorter, done slightly differently with an additional box that goes on the end. You've got your back, the back of the chassis here, the back of the hull. Here's your one of your shaped areas where the bottom of the turret, I guess, here. And then we've got these, obviously these skirts which are protecting the top of the tracks, side skirts here. Beautiful moulding, crisp as you like. Very nice that. Got to say I'm very impressed with the musing hobby so far. And that's Werk. Give them credit where it's due. Very nice sprue that, can't say anything wrong with that. Then, a bit more of a detailed sprue, it's going to be quite a big one. Make sure I give you plenty of time to look at this. Sometimes when I'm filming these I zoom you in and I say, oh yes, and here's a blah blah blah. And when I'm actually doing it live, like now, I'm thinking, it's off. That's it. They've seen enough. Move on. And yet, when I watch it back, I think, no, you haven't let them see it long enough. You've done it too quickly. So it's your perception changes, and perhaps it's just I'm worried about boring you. But I think I need to, with parts like this, I need to let you have a good, long, close look. So let's have a proper look at this, because this merits it. This is a fantastic looking sprue. Look at this. Wait. So, we've got these hatches that I spoke of. Various hatches. This is the one that's got the ejector hatch, I think, for the shell cases get ejected through it by the autoloader. Then you've got all sorts of bits of lights, and you've got all sorts of components that I don't even recognise. You've got the ring, the cupola ring here, one of the hatches. Here's the mantlet I spoke of, the sort of canvas element to it. Can you see that? Yeah, that's nice. Very, very nice. Then we've got the top centre area of the. This is the area that probably needs to be much more heavily armoured than it is, of the top of the turret. And you've got various parts of various hatches here at the bottom. There's the ejector hatch I spoke of. And then you've got all your little tow hooks. And we have some headlights and goodness knows whatever else. There's a lot of parts on this sprue. A lot of parts. Also got the mud guards themselves at the front mud guards, I think it is, here. And you've got your turret ring here. Another area where they need to perhaps strengthen these tanks a bit, because as we have seen, that seems to be the weak point. It gets hit by these two-stage explosive charges from a Maverick missile or an N-Law or similar. They don't seem to last very long. Now then, here's the top of the deck, which is where the actual turret ring goes. With some more mud guards, we've also got the covers for the stowage boxes there. Can you see that? Get the light. There we go. It's nice. I've got to say the moulding is Tamiya standard here. This is really nicely moulded. This is, yeah, I think this kit's going to end up getting a great rating. It's just let down by that oddly presented instructions, which are very hard to get your eyes to focus on, to be honest. Anybody who's got bad eyesight is going to really struggle with them, even with glasses, I think. I think I would. Here is your V, what should we call it, strake to deflect the water that goes on the front. You've got various grills and grates. Obviously here's your engine top deck cooling grills. Very, very nice. Very nice sprue. No flash, no rubbish at all. Stunning. Fantastic sprue that. I'm liking a musing hobby. I can see I'm going to get hooked on them. Not a manufacturer I know a lot about, really. Made in China, of course, but one of the better ones it looks to me. Now then. So look at our sprue with the gun on. Now then, look at this. This looks superb. Look at that. Now the gun is plastic, granted. But then again, it's quite, you know, for turning this, it's a difficult one to be turned because it's got a lot of detail on it. And I think you'll be fine, judging by the quality of the moulding they seem to have produced here. You've got some lovely mud guards as well. So that's the front main mud guard, I think. And you've got various hooks and clamps and parts of the end of the torsion bars, I think it is there. That barrel's nice, isn't it? I like the barrel. Done it well. It has like a central section, and I think you glue these two over the top of it. I think that's how it works. Is that correct? I think so. Yeah. Very nice. Again, beautiful moulding. No flash, no short shots, nothing looking awful. Now let's go into this one. Here we've got the actual barrel itself. Sorry, the turret I should say. The turret itself, what am I saying? Look at this turret. Isn't that nice? Ooh, yes, it's really, really crisp. And they've got this sort of slightly crackled finish to it, you know, the sort of welded finish that you get on tanks. That's nice. Lots of detail that's moulded into it as well. What a beauty, that's a nice piece of plastic. It really is. Now interestingly, we talked about this section here being separate. I think that's obviously for a different variant. Because here you've got no option to put that in, have you? That's just one solid full turret there. So I think that you won't be using that section that I showed you. Remember? Where was it? It's that one. Or that one. Yes, here it is. It's clearly not going to get used then. This part here. You're not going to be using that. Obviously, that's just for another variant. Because I don't think there's an alternative turret, so I don't think you're really going to get the option to, unless you want to cut it out. You could do some surgery, I guess. But that was actually on this. Oh, okay, that was actually on this sprue. Can you see? It's come off there. It's just floating. At some point it was on. Here's your sort of another canvas mantlet cover. And you've got another example of different rings. So there's a bit of a duplication overlap with some of these parts because of these different versions, I think. Here you've got these are the brackets that hold the oil, fuel, I keep saying oil drum, fuel drum at the back. And then you've got various other small brackets, and you've got your headlamp, I think it is, searchlight here. That's very nice. We like it, we like it. So nothing I don't like apart from the instructions so far. They weren't too bad, it was just bad choices of materials really. Now then, here we've got the torsion bars, yes, torsion bars. Can you see that? Torsion bar and the fuel tank. Look at that. Yes. There's a little bit of flash, but only on the ejector pin. It's got an ejector pin spigot attached to it, which you just trim off, so that's not a problem. There's your, look at that, a slide moulded fuel drum. That's nice. So there's no join in it. How cool is that? Wow, that is really nice. And you've got some really nice little hooks and towing eyes and things here. That's really good. Another good sprue. There's two of those, by the way. There's a duplicate of two identical ones. So I'll pop that back in there. I think the best way of presenting that is that. It's the old story about how do you get them back in the bag, isn't it now? Well, I don't want to get into trouble, so I've got to get this right. There we go. Right, okay. Now then, last bag, which has got multiple screws in it. It's got 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's 3, but they're 3 of the same duplication, so yeah. Just take one of those out then. It's a shame, I will just say to Amusing Hobby, it'd be nice if you could have a resealable bag. It would have been nice not to have had to cut his bags open for him, but anyway, don't think he minds because I say he's going to build this. Betcha. It's such a topical subject for all the wrong reasons, sadly, but it is an interesting thing at the moment, and you can think of doing lots of sort of dioramas with these, can't you? So here we go, we've got the wheels, and I've got to say, again, the moulding standard here is absolutely knockout. Look at this. That's very, very nice. And this is part of the torsion bar system, I think, the suspension system. Look at it's got like a shocker damper system. Look at that. And we've got drive sprockets, and again, super sharp moulding, you know. It's flawless, isn't it? Really nice. You've got some beautiful towing eyes there. Towing eyes, look. Oh. And you got another couple of these torsion bars here. Yeah. Well, my goodness, it's and there's 3 of these identical sprues. They are identical. Yeah, they are. They are the same. Well, I'm very impressed with the kit, I've got to say. Had it had instructions that were a little bit easy to read, I think it'd be a 10 out of 10. I think I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10, which I think is fair overall. It's a very interesting subject, as I say, sadly for all the wrong reasons, because we've seen it. We don't really want to see it on our TV screens every day in the news, you know. But I am most impressed with the kit. Das Werk, I say, great. I'm going to definitely look into maybe some more of their kits in the future, because that has filled me with interest and enthusiasm. Amusing hobby as well. I know that they've been somebody doing a beautiful, I think this was Amusing Hobby. There's a couple of the Shot Cal Centurion tanks, aren't there, from the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and I actually did a review on the AFE Club version, which was a gift for my relative. And there's also the Amusing Hobby version, which is just as good, if not better, in fact. And I've seen some pictures, and it looks really good. So they're clearly a company that's in China that's really coming of age. All I would say to you, Amusing Hobby, please make your instructions a little bit bolder, a bit clearer, and don't put it on this strangely coloured background, because it is hard to read. It's very hard to read, especially when you've got lots of fine parts that you're sticking on. You know, what you need to do almost is blow it up. Maybe take a photo and blow up the bit you're working on or something like that. But anyway, I just want to say that is a beautiful kit. 9.5 out of 10. Would have been 10. The moulding is 10 out of 10. No question. It's unfortunate, the subject matter. Not to be taken lightly at the moment. It's very sad. I think the sooner this horrible conflict in Ukraine is over, the better for the whole world, especially for Ukraine. I don't think there's any justification for it, and it's very unpleasant, especially when you're seeing so much suffering. I'm sure we all feel the same way, so hearts go out to Ukraine. Slava Ukraine. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you will tune in for some more interesting vids. I think we've got 1 or 2 other aircraft that could be very interesting, and maybe another possible Ukraine connection coming up in the not too distant future. Anyway, I hope you'll give me 10 out of 10 with a thumbs up. Smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and you enjoyed what you saw. And if you aren't already a subscriber, then please remember to ding the notification bell to get early warning of any more up and coming videos. And in the meantime, I'd just like to say to you all, let's hope that this unfortunate situation we've talked about here today ends soon, and the world can get back to living in peace together. And until next time, please all look after yourselves, take care. Thanks very much for watching, and thank you, bye for now.